Here's Brody Brazil.
Okay, so where do things stand with Howard Terminal? Another big vote just a couple days ago. There's another big hurdle, so to speak, for the project within the next few days, which we will dive into. But I understand why this is hard to grasp. There are a couple visualizations of timelines out there, but things change, dates change, objectives change. So I'm going to try and describe all this, and my disclaimer goes like this. All of what you're about to see is simplified. Yeah, otherwise this would be an hour or two long. I mean, there are that many details. Now, full credit to the A's and the city and the county and the BCDC. They're going through this process, and it's taking a while, but they are making diligent progress. And by the way, at the very end of this presentation, I also do want to point out, I guess I understand complacency of some who say, I can't take it anymore. This is taking too long. Or how many more votes is this? And I understand maybe the frustrations with that. But I'm also going to give you hopefully some encouragement to understand the progress that is actually being made here, both now in the past, obviously here in the present, and hopefully what it's lined up to be moving forward. So everything I'm about to spell out to you here, these are the big things. These aren't the only things. Okay, so let's get into what's already happened. The A's in this Howard Terminal process, I'm going to use this like winning a World Series, right? A championship is how I'm going to equate this project. The A's made the playoffs for Howard Terminal when there was a non-binding agreement with the port. That was now several years ago, when state bills were passed to expedite the expected lawsuits. That was also several years ago. The city voted on what turned out to be its own term sheet July 20th, a little bit less than a year ago, last summer. It was confusing at the time, but they did vote yes on a term sheet, their own, which did not make the A's very happy, was confusing to the process, but at least it kept things moving forward in the right direction. All those things combined with the fact that the county in recent months, they've agreed to be part of the IFD. Now, they didn't know all the details, the Infrastructure Financing District, but they've essentially already given a non-binding sign-on to this project. The county's going to be necessary too. In fact, as you'll see, they're a part of the World Series plan, the World Series round, I should say, later on. And then, last but certainly not least, the EIR was presented. It's been certified. That alone could have been a huge problem if there was something about the site that prohibited it from building on, or if there was something that couldn't be mitigated. I mean, you understand, that in itself was a low-key worry, of a lot of speculation, right? That if there was something in the EIR that wasn't good, it could throw this project off. But it was completely comprehensive. It allowed several variations in the EIR so that, if they need to take away 10 acres of land at the site to expand the turning basin, the ballpark can still exist. That's already been accounted for. So make no mistake, for people who are frustrated in the process, because it has taken a few years, let's also remember that San Jose and Fremont and the Peralta site, Laney College, those were all prior versions of aspirations. Those are tied only to A's fans at this point. All of this stuff has nothing to do with that stuff. So I know you can't detach from it because it's something that A's fans have in their background, but just know and understand, none of that, it counts towards the overall process, but it does not count towards Howard Terminal and what's been achieved here. These are tangible things. All of this I'm equating to the A's qualifying for the playoffs. Okay, so then, Brody, what was Thursday? Thursday was like winning the ALDS. Now, you know how this goes in the playoffs if you're the A's. The ALDS, the ALCS, and then the World Series. So the BCDC vote of a 23-2 final count, that was a triumphant win in the ALDS. The A's advanced around because, look what I have here on the bottom. That was an elimination game, or round if you want to put it that way. If the A's don't win that vote, and the stadium doesn't win approval, the project is basically over. But it's not. By a large margin, 23-2, BCDC, the Bay Conservation And Development Commission, they vote to remove port priority use from Howard Terminal. Again, just to understand the magnitude of what that was critical. That gets them a whole extra round here. But what comes next? Well, now it's the ALCS. And this is going to be a tough round. It's the development agreement and the community benefits agreement that are first needed by both the A's and the city. So we're not talking about a binding vote yet. And this has been discussed in negotiations now for months. Dave Cavell on the A's side and primarily Libby Schaaf, Oakland mayor, on the city side. And it's been cordial. And it's been described as productive and both sides making progress. And we have heard it understood that where it stands at this moment, as far as I know, is that the A's made a certain proposal in terms of the development agreement and the community benefits agreement for about 15%, I think it's 15% on-site affordable housing, and I believe 20% off-site. But the A's also wanted some other benefits, some tax benefits, business tax benefits from the project. And then I guess the city has since denied that proposal and is now presenting a counter proposal that the A's are still waiting on. So look, all in total, here's what we need to understand. Let's back ourselves out of the details for a second to understand the big picture that both sides are telling you it's close. We're working on single-digit percentages here or there. And quite honestly, there was no reason really for the A's or the city to connect on a development agreement or officially a community benefits agreement until the BCDC vote was done. And that just happened a few days ago. So what real motivation for either side would there have been to get this done ahead of something else that needed to happen? So my point, now the pressure is really on to get those agreements done. Now, those are not the ultimate deciders, though. Then the Oakland City Council actually needs to have a binding vote on, those two things. Those two things right there require a binding vote from the city council. So it's a combination of two things that need to happen here. And like I said, the ALCS with Oakland is a difficult round. This could be the most challenging series. And I promise I'm not trying to dumb everything down to the sports analogy, but how many times have you seen a team in any sport win a championship and the final round was actually not the heaviest? I'm not saying the final round won't be difficult. Everything is. But the heaviest round, I think, is about to take place here with the city of Oakland. So again, this is the ALCS with the city. Any kind of public vote could confuse and delay the project. Why do I bring that up? Well, because right around the corner on the 5th of July, 2 days from now, in fact, in less than 2 days as I'm live here doing this video, Oakland City Council is going to take up the idea of a public advisory vote on this project. Now, I know the instant criticism of some who would say, well, wouldn't you want the public voting on this project? The answer is, if you could assure me that they were completely up to date in where Howard Terminal is, what's currently there now, what an infrastructure financing district is, how would Oakland and Alameda County all benefit? If the voting public could assure everybody that they are aware and up to speed on those things alone, yeah, then maybe that's a good idea. But until then, I'm not sure. And I mean, it was plainly exhibited the other day that somebody even voting on the BCDC was shown a map during a presentation with Howard Terminal outlined in red. And the individual asked the question in front of everybody watching, what exactly is that red square right there? What am I looking at? Howard Terminal. I'm worried that the general public has only heard and seen headlines about this, has heard and seen spin about this. I would like them to be at least educated. It's the same reason why I don't want somebody in the general public flying an airplane for me. They don't have the background on it or the training on it or the understanding of it. I'll do a sports analogy here. It's the same reason why fans don't run the Oakland A's. They don't manage the games. They don't run the front office. You're supposed to put somebody in place that's qualified to make those difficult and educated decisions for you. And that's why Oakland has voted and installed a city council. It is their job. And this is what Mayor Libby Schaaf said the other day. She wants them to do their job. Because if this, to go back to the basic here, if there is a public vote on this, that puts the public vote, which is not even a binding vote. It's only an advisory vote. It advises the city council what the public thinks of the project. Again, what they think versus what they actually know might be two different things. And then the election cycle would also take place in November. So all of this would go to literally a half new city council, if there are going to be that many new members of the city council, as well as a new mayor of Oakland. Libby Schaaf is terming out. She'll be essentially replaced in the fall, and then she'll be out of office in January. But yeah, this is all really, really difficult because time is also of the essence here. And that's why, like I said before, this is the most challenging series. So where does it begin? It begins on Tuesday at this city council meeting where a public advisory vote is going to be brought up. There are clearly two council members who are behind this. They alone, voting for this, would not be enough to make it happen. But it is an interesting development to follow, and it would have, critical ramifications on the project. And I don't mean to bring everybody down based on how exhilarated people were on Thursday. You have the right to be. I'm just telling you that the next big thing, it could be very messy. It could be on the table as soon as Tuesday. So the ALCS could be the most challenging series in all of this. And let's say all that gets passed. And by the way, when would the ALCS be? We don't have a date on that yet because we're waiting on the development agreement, community benefits agreement, and then ultimately a binding vote, hopefully without the public vote, the non-binding public vote to precede it. Honestly, it seems like the ALCS might be sometime in late September, but probably more likely in October. And that would bring us to the World Series, which, if you're asking me, is also an October/November thing at this point, maybe even into early December. But what does that consist of? Well, a binding vote by the County of Alameda. Basically, they're going on with what then the A's and city would already be binded on. There are some other entitlements that the project needs. There's also another BCDC permit that the project needs. So we're not completely done with the BCDC yet. You have to love the way that the vote turned out. That was necessary, but there is one more process. And then, again, the theme here of last but not least, there are multiple lawsuits filed against this project. Those need to be resolved. Now, again, they were expected. They are being expedited. So all of that is great, but they need to be resolved. And you see what I'm saying here is that the Oakland City Council has timing. The Oakland City Council already has some interesting adversity. That, to me, right now, the next thing is the biggest thing at this point. And it's not just because it's next, it's because it literally is the biggest thing. Feeling like the County of Alameda has been on board with this since the beginning. They just didn't want to step on Oakland's toes. They wanted Oakland to go first, kind of like Oakland wanted the BCDC to go first. The other entitlements, again, I do feel like there is some momentum. The more we find out about this project, the more work and research that's put into it, the more opportunistic it looks for everybody involved. And again, the BCDC's already been favorable. Lawsuits, I wish I were an expert in that field. Not going to tell you one way or the other, but for the A's as the sponsor of this project to know that these lawsuits were basically going to happen from the start, I don't think they would have pushed forward in this project if they didn't think those could be victories in those lawsuits one way or another. So all of that established, what's shovels in the ground? Because everybody talks about that. What shovels in the ground is the parade, because there's nothing at that point controversial about it. Construction has started. It goes from conception to reality. That is the championship parade. So if we're going to recap here, getting to the playoffs was everything, including the EIR, all those initial steps. The ALDS, it's already been won. It's been clinched. The A's got the BCDC vote. The ALCS is the city of Oakland. And the World Series is what you just saw, including the County of Alameda, the lawsuits, some other entitlements in the BCDC, which brings us all to this joyous day. I hope it's a couple years away. This is the essential championship parade. shovels in the ground. It's going to be some champagne popped on that day. I can guarantee you that. Okay, but I also do want to finish up here with a thought on complacency of A's fans. Now, these are comments I regularly see on social media, and they're from fans who've been around the longest or fans that are just confused by the process. I'm calling it complacency because you're just like, meh, I don't know how to feel. Because it's been too long. Because you were around when Cisco Field was a conversation. You were around when the team was then going to move to San Jose and didn't, and the Giants blocked that territory. Or you've been involved in this process and you're saying, wait, was this the ultimate vote? Can they build? What does another vote that clears the way mean? How many more? And hopefully this video could explain some of that. But yeah, some people are lost in the process and they're just getting a little bit complacent. Here's what I would say. Some things to consider. This is the playoffs right now. Where you're at right now, this is not the regular season. This is not exhibition. This is it. Before even last year, the A's were not in the playoffs relating to Howard Terminal. Nobody from the city or county or BCDC was talking about a Howard Terminal ballpark. Nobody besides the A's and you and I. But now it's officially being discussed and approved and voted on. I know it's been so long that maybe we didn't realize where we are. Pinch yourself. It's the playoffs of this process. Not only is it the playoffs, you've already advanced a round. You've already faced elimination. I mean, first off, it's tough to get to the playoffs. Then you beat elimination and you're advancing around. So you're making progress here. And I think the third thing on the list here to consider, it kind of comes with the territory, but for so long, A's fans talked about this, and what did you want? This is what you want. The hard part, the difficult part, the one challenge after the next. For example, Thursday was a huge vote. Now Tuesday is another interesting scenario unfolding. Yeah, I wish it was all easier too, but everything that's rewarding is also hard to go through. Such is the case here with Howard Terminal. So don't forget where you're at. Don't forget all the things that have already happened to get us to this point, because I know it's confusing. I know it's complex. Hopefully that answers some of the initial questions about where we stand with Howard Terminal.